Interesting TCM and Acupuncture. TCM lectures by Professor Wu. Part 14, discussing the acupoints. Abstract. Acupoints are located on the outside of the human body and serve as a passage connecting the organs, viscera, meridians, collaterals, qi, and blood. The Chinese term shu, which means acupoint, has the same meaning as the word transfer, since it has an inherent meaning of transference from one place to another. The Chinese word shui, which means cavity, and is usually used to denote the depression in which acupoints are located, refers to places in which the qi of the meridians reside. In total, the Chinese name for acupoints is shu shui. Acupoints are found in the internal classic and are referred to as nodes, meetings, qi cavities, qi residences, bone gaps, rivulets, and many other names. In the Jiang classic of acupuncture, they're called portal cavities, in Chinese kong shui. And in the Bestowal of the Prescriptions of the Sage, a 10th century acupuncture document, they're called cavity locations, shui wei. Well, in the Song Dynasty Brassman Acupoint, Acupuncture, and Mock Sebastian Picture Classic, they're called insertion points, shu shui. Even though there are three versions of the term shu, referring to an acupoint, all are commonly used to refer to acupoints. There are differences between the three concepts, including the idea that insertion points refer to the precise names of a geographical acupoint, while transfer points refer to the third of 5 types of points associated with the 5 elements. The concept of the third genre of shu shui, which may also be called transfer points, is related to a specific acupoint on the back associated with certain organs or functions of the body. Acupoints of the human body are places in which illness of the inner body is reflected on the outside. They're also the places upon which we practice acupuncture in Mock Sebastian. Acupoints have an inseparable relationship with meridians and collaterals, organs and viscera, and qi and blood. The Spiritual Pivot, 9 Needles and 12 Origins chapter says, those wishing to know the subtle aspect of acupuncture, connecting the meridian vessels, adjusting the blood and qi, commanding the connections, reversal and aggregation, leaving and entering. To clarify, the practice of needling specific acupoints is meant to dredge the meridian system, adjust the qi and blood, and realize the goal of treating an illness successfully. Meridian acupoints are separated into categories based on their respective meridians. While each meridian is associated with a particular organ or viscera, this is why acupoints, meridian, organs, and viscera all have relationships, which may not be scrutinized as independent pieces. They must be understood systematically. Acupoints are the locations on which we practice acupuncture, and in bedside practice, we must verify which points should be needled in order to cure an illness. We must master the locations of points, which meridians they return to, and how to treat them. These things constitute the basic knowledge of our practice. Contents. 1. Acupoints and their development and naming conventions. 2. Acupoint treatment, specialties and principles. 3. Extraordinary points. 4. Summary. Part 1. Acupoints and their development and naming conventions. Development of acupoints. Acupoints came as a result of the observation of illness arising from overwork during ancient times in China. Eventually, this knowledge came to be incorporated into the scope of knowledge of Chinese medicine. Typically, the development history of acupoints can be seen to have 3 stages. 1. That which is in pain is an acupoint. During this time, acupuncture and Mock Sebastian were primarily concerned with the location of pain in the body, and they had not yet clearly established the absolute location of acupoints or their precise names. Therefore, acupoints did not have absolute locations during this time, and they did not have precise names. 2. Establishing names and settling locations period. After the study of acupoints entered its second phase of development, the points were given names and their locations were verified. 3. Establishing names, locations, meridians of return, and systems period. This period saw the maturation of the concept of acupoints when they were formalized into specific locations, names, and return meridians. 2. Acupoint categories. The acupoints of the body are many, but in summary, there are generally 3 major types. 1. Points of the 14 meridians. 2. Extraordinary points. 3. Asher points. 2.1. Points of the 14 meridians. Overview. These are called meridian points and refer to points on the 12 upright meridians and the Ren and Du channels. These points are located along the lines of each meridian or channel. Special features. These points are specifically named, have specific locations, and specific meridian associations, as well as particular principles of treatment. Many of them can be used to treat illnesses associated with their own particular meridian. So this is the particular value of these points. Location. They're spread all along the 14 meridians on their respective paths. Origin. These points developed alongside the extraordinary points. Number. There are 360 points as recorded in the 1,000 golden formulas. 2.2. Extraordinary points outside the meridians. Overview. These points are dispersed outside of the 14 meridians and also include recently discovered acupoints. Special features. They have specific names and specific locations as well as treatment principles, but do not return to any particular meridians. Locations. There are no particular governing principles which regulate their locations. Number. Historically, these points have been viewed differently, so there's no absolute way to ascertain their total number. Note, there are also some extraordinary points which actually return to the meridians, such as the Gaohuang point, which was originally an area used to practice moxibustion, recorded in the 1,000 golden formula, but was later added to the greater Yang meridian of the foot in the Song Dynasty Bronze Man Classic. 2.3. Asher points. These points do not have names or set locations. They are specific areas which are sensitive and sore to the touch, thus reflecting illness in a particular part of the body which may be treated with acupuncture. They're also called not established points or heavenly echo points. Special features. These points are without specific name or location, and the treatment strategy is predicated mainly on finding feelings of soreness, pain, or pressure, and treating them locally with acupuncture and moxibustion. Location. They have no specific principle. Origin. They emerged from experiential research and clinical practice. Number. There's no way to know their number. 3. Acupoint naming conventions. Acupoints are named in accordance with particular meanings and principles which describe something about them. The 1,000 golden formula extension says, normally portal points names are not random. They have deep meanings. Throughout history, doctors have followed the locations of acupoints to decide their use, and collected the noted effects of treating specific points with the broader theory of medicine. Then they went on to use their discoveries to establish the naming conventions of the points. Thus, acupuncture points each have specific names which accord to particular meanings about them. This can help us to memorize and become familiar with their use in clinical practice, helping us tremendously. The particulars of the naming conventions of acupoints is listed in brief below. 3.1. Following their locations. Points such as Wangu, wrist bone or gallbladder 12, Dajoi, great protuberance or governing vessel 14, Armen, ear gate or triple energizer 21, Arjian, ear tip or extraordinary point 6, Ruzhong, breast center or stomach 17, Jizhong, spine center or governing vessel 6, Qizhong, navel center, conception vessel 8, also known as Shenchui, Xinmen, fontanelle, Jiache, stomach 6, and so on, are all ancient names for specific body parts. These points are associated with those body parts and thus derive their names. This group of points are clearly defined as being located in specific body regions. 3.2. Following their prescription association. Points such as Qingming, clear eyes, Guangming, bright eyes, Sibai, 4 eyes, and the like are named because of their benefit to the eyes. Shuifen, or water margin, Shuidao, or water path, are named because of their ability to benefit water and reduce swelling. Qianzheng, leading upright, cures mouth problems, while Yingxiang, welcoming perfume, connects the nasal cavity. Tenggong, or ear palace, and Tinghui, ear connection, help in deafness and ringing in the ears. Fengfu, or wind residence, and Fengshi, wind city, banish wind. These points are all named according to their specific treatment strategies. 3.3. Name for the relationship between the body and the geography of China, stars and legendary geography. Points such as Shangxing, highest star, Yue, sun and moon, Taiyi, great one, Kunlun, Kunlun mountain, Chengshan, Cheng mountain, Daling, great mound, Qiushu, hill mound, Hegu, converging valley, Yangxi, bright rivulet, Shuigou, water fork, Chizhe, cubit pond, Tianchi, heavenly lake, Jichuan, absolute spring, Xiaohai, little sea, and so on fit into this category. 3.4. Named after particular plants and animals. Points such as Futu, hidden rabbit, Yuji, fish margin, Dubi, calf nose, Hoding, stork peak, Jiuwei, dovetail, Yuyao, fish waist, and so on, are named after certain animals. The meaning of this is reflected on their location and shape. Points such as Zanju, collecting bamboo, and Siju Kong, empty bamboo flute, and so on, are names of particular plants. Knowing the reasoning behind these names can help us to be sure of the benefit of specific points. 2.5. Words derived from ancient Chinese culture. Tianjing, heavenly well. Yutang, jade hall. Chenchui, advisorial gate. Dicang, grain storehouse. Liangmen, beam gate. Shenting, spirit hall. Qihu, qi window. Tianchuang, heavenly window. Zhongfu, central residence, and so on, are predicated on place names from Chinese history. There are also points which use terms such as xiang, which means village, li, which means area, shi, which means city, jia, which means road, dao, which means path or thoroughfare, chong, which means passing, hui, which means meeting, he, which means converting, jiao, which means exchanging, ying, which means protruding or welcoming, guan, which means gate, and shu, which means hinge, to denote how the points relate to their location. 3.6. Collected from Chinese medicine theory. Points such as the heart shu, lung shu, and so on are named after back shu points which relate to the organs. Shentang, Pohu, Shenmen, Huanmen, and so on are named relative to the specific functions of the mind and its associated organ relationships. Yangjiao, Yindu, Zhiyang, Huiyin, Yangqi, Huiyang, and Jinjiao are named according to the relative locations of yin and yang on the body surface. The 3 yang and 5 meeting points, such as Baihui, Sanyinjiao, Sanyangluo, and so on, are named after the collective movement of certain elements of the meridian system, which meet and operate together according to their yin-yang relationships. Part 2. Acupoint treatment, specialties, and principles. 1. Specific treatment functions. Acupoint's 3 particular treatment functions. 1.1. Local treatment use. These acupuncture points can treat diseases and syndromes of local parts and their neighboring organs, tissues, and orifices. This is the common feature of all acupoint indications. That is to say, point locations may indicate point use. Points in this category include Qingming, Chengqi, Sibai, and Qiuhou for the eyes, Ergong, Tinghui, Yifeng, and Armen for the ears, Zhongwan, Jianli, Liangmen, and so on for the stomach. 1.2. Distal treatment. These are certain acupoints that can not only cure local diseases and syndromes, but also cure diseases and syndromes of the viscera, tissues, and organs in remote parts reached by their return meridian. The acupoints with remote treatment functions mainly refer to the acupoints located on the 12 meridians below the elbow and knee joints of the limbs. That is to say, the connected meridians determine the treatment. Points such as Hegu may not only be used to treat the maladies of the upper arm, they can also treat the face and head. 1.3. Special use. Certain acupoints have a two-way benign adjustment effect and a particular therapeutic effect. The so-called two-way benign adjustment effect means that the same acupoint can have 2 opposite and effective therapeutic effects on different pathological conditions of the body. For example, Tianshu can cure both diarrhea and constipation. Neiguan can slow down the heart rate when the heart is experiencing tachycardia, but when the heart rate is experiencing bradycardia, or a slowing of the heart, it can increase the heart rate. In addition, the therapeutic effects of acupoints are particular, and certain acupoints can treat certain diseases and syndromes in a particular way, such as Dajue for fever or Jiyan to correct fetal position, and so on. Treatment principles. Acupoints have treatment principles based on their specific meridians. The principle of a specific meridian and indication is that the meridian points of a certain meridian can treat the pathology of the meridian and its corresponding viscera. Different meridian points of the same meridian can treat the same disease and syndrome in the meridian. For example, the acupoint of Taiyin meridian of the hand mainly treat lung and throat disease syndromes, and the acupoints of the Yang Ming meridian of the hand mainly treat symptoms of the head and face disease. According to the law of acupoint meridian differentiation, later generations of physicians said that it's better to lose the acupoints than to lose the meridian in acupuncture treatment. Also, the three yang meridians of the hand, the three yin meridians of the hand, three yang meridians of the foot, and three yin meridians of the foot, and ren and du meridians each have their own particular principle according to their paths. At the same time, they also all have the ability to treat the body. The ren meridian points, such as hui yang, can be used to strengthen the body, while points on the du channel can treat windstroke, confusion, fever, headache, face pain. At the same time, the points of both channels can be used to treat mental illness, organ illness, and gynecological illness. In summary, the points of the 14 meridians each have their own particular uses, but also have cooperative functions when used together. Point 2, acupoint distribution principles. Distribution-based treatment refers to points on every part of the body and their uses, in clinical medicine for treatment of disease. The distribution of acupoints has a direct correlation to what types of illness they can treat. For instance, points on the head, face, and neck can treat illnesses of the 5 facial orifices, as well as the neck and nape, face, and head. Points on the back of the head and back of the neck can treat mental illness. Part 3, extraordinary points. Extraordinary points, overview of types. Extraordinary points are points along the 14 meridians with special uses. Together, they are comprised of the 5 transport points, the source points, lower points, shi cleft points, lower ho points, shu points, mu points, 8 hui points, 8 meeting points, and the meeting points of the 8 extraordinary meridians. The special points include points on the 4 limbs under the knee, including the 5 transport points, yuan source points, lower points, shi cleft points, 8 meridian meeting points, lower ho si points. On the chest and abdomen and back, there are back shu points and front mu points. And on the 4 limbs and near the trunk, there are 8 converging points, as well as the hui meeting points, which connect to the whole body. 1. 5 transport points. The 5 transport points meaning and naming conventions. The 12 upright meridians all pass through the joints of the elbows and knees, and below them are 5 important points along each meridian. These are separated into Jing Well, Ying Spring, Shu Stream, Jing River, and He Si points. In total, they're known as the 5 transfer points. They're recorded in the Spiritual Pivot 9 Needles and 12 Upright Origins chapter. Upper and lower leave from the Jing Well, collect in the Ying Spring, rest in the Shu Stream, move in the Jing River, and enter the He Si. However, this has not completely illustrated why the points are given such names. The Spiritual Pivot Original Points chapter explains this in more detail and shows how the Jing River, Ying Spring, Shu Stream, Jing River, and He Si points are specifically named to know their functions. It only fails to mention the Lesser Yin Heart Meridian, but this was later accounted for in the Jia Yi Classic. The ancients believed that the meridians in Qi moved in the same way as water in the natural world. They could be shallow and they could be deep, and that there was a constant change between these features of the meridians. The 5 transport points hold that the Jing Well, Ying Spring, Shu Stream, Jing River, and He Si points all naturally flow from the tips of the 4 limbs at the fingers toward the elbows and knees. 1.2, layout of the 5 transport points. The Jing River points are all on the fingers and toes at their ends. They refer to the origin of water and qi of the meridians leaving from these points. So they're called well, indicating the nature of being similar to water in a well. The Ying Spring points are usually on the palms of the fingers, toes of the body, or of the foot, and represent the beginning of the collection of water bubbling up. Spring denotes water that has not yet begun to flow, but instead is in the process of amassing and preparing to travel. Thus, these points are said to be Ying Spring points of collection. The Shu Stream points are after the points of the hand and feet and represent the growth of the flow of water from small to larger, going from shallow toward depth. These are areas of the channel where the qi becomes gradually more vibrant, so they're called places where water rests. The Jing River points are above the wrists and ankles. Their flow is large and connects without breakage. Thus, they're said to be the points where the water begins to move. The Husi points are the joints of the elbow and knee, and are like rivers running into the ocean. They're the points where the channel qi is the deepest and begins to enter the organs. Thus, they're called points that enter in connection. 1.3, 5 transfer points enumeration. Because there are 5 transfer points on each of the 12 meridians, that means that there are a total of 60 transfer points on the body. 2. Source points. 2.1, source point meaning. The 12 upright meridians on the wrist and ankle joints each have one important acupoint which contains the source qi of an internal organ it's associated with. This qi rests at that point and it's thus called yuan source point. In total, there are 12, so they're called the 12 sources. 2.2, yuan source point naming conventions. In Spiritual Pivot 9 Needles and 12 Origins chapter, it explains the source points of the 5 organs. The lung source emerges from Taiyuan, the heart source emerges from Daling, the liver source emerges from Taichung, the spleen source emerges from Taibai, the kidney source emerges from Taishi. In Spiritual Pivot Root Transfer chapter, it explains the source points of the 6 viscera. The large intestine source point is Hegu, the stomach source point is Chongyang, the small intestine source point is Wangu, the bladder source point is Jinggu, the triple burner source point is Yangchi, the gallbladder source point is Qiushu. Altogether, these are the source points. But the heart source point of Shenmen was added later in the Jiayi classic. The 5 meridians of the Zang organs each have source points, and the 5 transport points, Shu stream shares the same location, so it's said that the Shu stream is the source. The Yang meridian of the 6 viscera have source points located outside the Shu stream points. The classic of difficulties, 60-second difficulty, says the triple burner moves all Yang. It is 1 point behind the Shu stream point. This is because the source points occur when the Yang channels begin to become more replete with qi. The yuan source points originate with the qi of the kidney and are reflective of the original energy of the body. They pass the triple burner in organs and viscera and the root of the 12 channels. Source points and the area that contain the original qi of the organs and viscera. So when the organs become ill, they'll show on the surface of the body. This is expressed in the Spiritual Pivot 9 Needles and 12 Origins chapter, which says, when the 5 Zang organs are sick, they show in the 12 sources. The 12 sources emerge and can clearly show the origin, indicating the injury of the 5 organs. 2.3, yuan source point numbers. Every meridian has 1 source point, for a total of 12, with 6 on each side of the body. 3, Luo points. Luo point meaning. Luo vessels on the meridians and each have 1 acupoint called Luo points. They connect the internal and external 2 meridians together into yin and yang pairs. 3.2, naming of the Luo points. The Spiritual Pivot chapter on meridians and vessels says that the 12 upright meridian Luo points are under the knees and elbows. When including the Luo points of the Ren meridian called Zhouwei on the abdomen, and the Du meridian Luo point called Changqiang, which is on top of the head, as well as the large Luo point of the spleen called Dabao, which is on the chest side, there are 15 Luo points, which is why they're called the 15 Luo points. Luo point numbers. There are 1 Luo point per upright meridian, making for 12. This plus the points on the Du and Ren meridian make up the Great Luo, and the Great Luo of the spleen make for 15. 4. Qi cleft points. Qi cleft point meaning. Qi cleft points are on each meridian where the meridian qi is the deepest. Most of them are on the 4 limbs under the elbows and knees, but only the stomach qi cleft point called Liangqiu is above the knee. 12 upright meridians, yin and yang qiao and yin and yang wei, each have 1 qi cleft point, making for a total of 16. Qi cleft point naming convention. The qi cleft points first appeared in the Jiayi classic. In clinic, they're used to treat their own particular meridian and acute illness of their associated organs and viscera. Qi cleft point numbering. Every meridian has 1, making for 12, including the yin and yang qiao, as well as the yin and yang wei channels. There are 16 qi cleft points. 5. Back shu points. Back shu point meaning. The organs and viscera channels connect in the back and waist in the back shu points. The back shu points follow the greater yang meridian of the bladder and happen to be proximal to the location of organs. They're separated into the names of each organ and viscera, making it for 12 in total. Back shu point naming conventions and locations. Back shu points are first recorded in the Spiritual Pivot Back Shu chapter, which explains that the 5 organs each have points along the back in specific places. The Simple Questions Qi Residence discussion put forth the idea that the 6 Fu each have 1 shu point, but do not clearly name them. The Classic of Pulses explains more clearly the nature of the lung shu, kidney shu, liver shu, heart shu, spleen shu, large intestine shu, bladder shu, gallbladder shu, small intestine shu, stomach shu, in total making up the 12 back shu points and their locations. Later in the 1000 Formulas Classic, the triple burner back shu point was added, and later in the Jia Yi Classic, the triple burner back shu point was added, and in the 1000 Golden Prescriptions, the terminal yin shu point was added to complete them. Numbering of back shu points. Every meridian has 1, making for a total of 12. They're also called the 12 back shu points. 6. Front mu points. Meaning of front mu points. The organs and viscera channel qi collects in the chest and abdomen points. These are called mu points. The 6 viscera and 6 organs each have 1 mu point, making for a total of 12. Mu point naming conventions. The mu points were first recorded in the Simple Questions Extraordinary Illness discussion, which says gallbladder vacuous qi moves upward and causes the mouth to be bitter. It may be treated by using the gallbladder mu point. The Classic of Difficulties, 67th difficulty, says the 5 organs mu points are yin and the shu are yang. However, no names are included. Finally, the Classic of Pulses clearly explained that qi men, yue, chen, shen shui, guan yuan, zhang men, tai cang, zhong wan, zhong fu, tian shu, jing men, and zhong ji are the front mu points. The Jia Yi Classic added triple burner point of Shimen, and later people added the pericardium shu point of Shanzhong to complete them. Mu point numbering. Every meridian has 1 mu point, making for a total of 12. Thus, they're called the 12 mu points on the abdomen. 7. Meeting points. The 8 meeting points meaning. The 8 meeting points refer to points where organs, viscera, qi, blood, sinew, vessel, bones, and marrows meet and collect in an acupoint. The 8 meeting points naming conventions. The 8 meeting points are recorded in the Classic of Difficulties, 45th difficulty, which says the viscera point is Tai Chuang, Zhongfu, the organ meeting point is Jiangmen, the sinew meeting point is Lingchuan, the marrow meeting point is Juigu, the blood meeting point is Geshu, the bone meeting point is Daju, the vessel meeting point is Taiyuan, the qi meeting point is Shanzhong. Number of the 8 meeting points. Organs, viscera, qi, blood, sinews, vessels, bones, and marrow each have 1 point, making for a total of 8. Vessel exchange points. Meaning of the 8 vessel exchange points. The 8 extraordinary meridians meet the 12 upright meridians and connect at these 8 positions, so they're called the 8 vessel meeting exchange points. They're mainly located under the elbow and knees. The vessel exchange point naming convention. The 8 vessel exchange point were put forward in the Jin and Yuan dynasty and were obtained by Dou Hanqing from the mountain man Song Zihua, who was also known as the hermit in the small room. Dou's reputation was doubled because of his good use of this method, that the 8 vessel exchange points, so it's called Dou's 8 vessel exchange points. The 8 exchange points numbering. There are 8 extraordinary meridians of Chong, Ren, Du, Dai, Yin, and Yang Qiao, Yin, and Yang Wei. Each channel has 1 point, thus there are 8. 9. Lower He points. Lower He point meaning. The lower He points are also called the 6 Fu lower He points. They follow the pathogenic qi of illnesses of the organs and viscera chapter of the Spiritual Pivot, which says He points can cure the internal viscera. This theory pointed out that the stomach He point was Zusan Li, the large intestine He point is Shanglian, the small intestine He point is Xialian, the triple burner point is Wei Yang, the bladder He point is Wei Zhong, the gallbladder He point is Yang Lingchuan. Lower He point naming convention. The theory comes from the Spiritual Pivot Original Points chapter, which says the 6 viscera come from the legs and have 3 yang channels. Each one harmonizes with the hands. The large intestine, small intestine, and stomach, thus the large intestine, small intestine have a lower hook point on the stomach channel. The Jiang Acupuncture and moxibustion classic says, Wei Yang is the lower hook point of the triple burner. This is the greater yang divergent law. The bladder controls Jin and Ye fluids. The triple burner controls water and metabolism. So the triple burner and bladder have a close relationship. The triple burner has its lower hook point on the bladder channel. The stomach, gallbladder, and bladder channels each have their own lower hook point, which is always on the leg. As a result, there are 6 in total. Lower hook point naming convention. Because there are 3 yang channels on the leg, and there is a lower hook point for each of them, there are 6 lower hook points with 3 on each leg. Exchange points. Exchange point meaning. Exchange point refer to points where 2 or more meridians converge. This includes points of specific meridians which transfer to others. Exchange point naming convention. The exchange points are recorded in the Jiang Acupuncture and moxibustion classic. They are mainly near the head, face, and trunk. Exchange points in clinic. Exchange points can cure illnesses of the original meridian, but can also assist in curing illnesses of other meridians they're associated with. For instance, Guanyuan and Zhongji both belong to the Du meridian and are its exchange points, with the 3 yin meridians on the feet. They can be used to cure illnesses of the Ren meridian, but can also be used for the 3 yin meridians. Dajue of the Du meridian can be used for the 3 yang meridians and can also be used to treat illnesses of the Du meridian. This means that it can be used for illnesses of the entire body. San Yin Jiao of the greater yin spleen meridian meets the lesser yin kidney meridian of terminal liver meridian. Even though the point is associated with the spleen meridian, it can cure liver and kidney illnesses. This is the specialization of the exchange points of the meridians. Note, a summary of special points. 1. The 5 exchange points total a number of 60. 2. The yuan source points total 12, with 6 being frequently used. 3. The luo points number 15. 4. The shi cleft points number 16. 5. The back shu points number 12. 6. The front mu points number 12. 7. The 8 meeting points number 8. 8. The 8 channel exchange points number 8. 9. The lower he points number 6, with 3 that are frequently used. In total, there are 149 special points, with 140 in frequent use before counting the exchange points. 11. Use in acupuncture and moxibustion. Acupuncture and moxibustion treatment uses the points in 3 ways. 1. Dredging the meridians. 2. Supporting the meridians and helping them fight pathogens. 3. Adjusting yin and yang. The first method of dredging the meridians, normally when a meridian is congested, it will produce swelling, pain, blood stasis, numbness, and so on. Acupuncture can help with this, and so can moxibustion. Typically, this is done by dredging and adjusting the qi and blood in order to help people stop experiencing pain. The second method of supporting the meridians and fighting pathogens uses acupuncture as a means to strengthen the meridians and leak pathogens from the body by bloodletting. Once the body has been supported, the pathogens have been removed, it can improve the body's ability to strengthen itself and fight disease. The goal of this method is to remove pathogens from the body and return the function of the body to normal. The third method of adjusting yin and yang is focused on repairing excesses, flourishing, or decline. Using acupuncture is possible to boost the insufficient and leak out the excess, arriving at a balance of yin and yang in the body. 12. Selecting points. The principle of selecting points. Acupoints are one of the key aspects of acupuncture and moxibustion. The body has a total of 361 points on the meridians, and many outside the meridians. It is important to select the right point. So first you must understand their functions and uses. Knowing the meridians and the theory of the points can help you to gain more experience when you work in a clinic. It can help you to better select acupoints in order to make better prescriptions. Acupuncture and moxibustion use yin and yang, the organs and viscera, meridians and collaterals, and qi and blood in treatment strategy. Typically, we must follow the meridians to select points. This includes connecting the meridians and following the meridian to select the point, can include both proximal and distal points selection, as well as following expression of the pathogen in the body. 1. Proximal selection. Proximal selection refers to selecting a point close to where the illness is occurring. This method is diverse and is typically performed close to where the illness is most obvious on the body surface. Typically, if the face is ill, we might choose the taiyang or fengchi points. If the teeth are painful, we might choose xiaguan or jiache. If the eyes are ill, we might choose jingming or jiuhou, zanju or fengchi. If the nose is painful, we might choose yingxiang. If the face is sick, we might use jiache or ditang. If the stomach is ill, we might choose zhongwan. If the abdomen is sore, we might choose tianshu, qihai, and so on. If the knee is sore, we might use zusanli. All of these are proximal points due to their proximity with the illness. 2. Distal points. Distal points are points which are far away from the diseased area. These points are related to the overall principles of acupuncture and how we view illness in a holistic way. Distal selection is quite diverse in clinical application and typically involves selection of points under the elbows and knees. Typically, we may choose to use points along the disease channel, but we may also select points based on their internal and external relationships, or even sometimes pick points which are named in association with other channels. For instance, when treating a cough, we might choose to use Chizhe, Yiji, Taiyuan points of the lung channel, but we can also use the Taibai point of the spleen channel. This is because both channels are tie-in nature. So treating the tie-in foot channel of the spleen may have a beneficial effect on the tie-in lung channel of the hand. At other times, such as when the patient is suffering from a sore stomach, we might choose to treat Zusanli, point of the stomach channel, as well as the Gongsun, point of the spleen channel. This is because these two channels have an internal and external yin and yang relationship, which allows their dual treatment to be mutually beneficial. In a third instance, we might use the Hegu point of the large intestine channel to treat illnesses of the face, such as red eyes. But we might also use Baihui to treat anal prolapse. And in cases of acute waist pain, we might use Shuigou. This is an instance of following the disease and treating with the appropriate point. 3. Following the illness. Following the illness is a way which we use evidence to help us select a point. This method views the whole body when considering a disease, and typically focuses on points which are proven to assist in certain specific conditions, such as high fever, inability to sleep, many dreams, spontaneous sweating, thief sweating, confusion, and other illnesses of the entire body. When we select points for this type of illness, we're always taking the specific illness into account and carefully scrutinizing the nature of the pattern according to the Zangfu and meridian theory in order to find the appropriate points to treat. For instance, if one feels very hot, we might choose Dazhui and Hebu. If the body is vacuous, we may choose Guanyuan and Qihai, as well as Zusanli. If the heart and kidney are not communicating, causing inability to sleep, we might choose points on those two channels, such as Shenman and Taixi. If there's phlegm, we might choose Zhongwan or Fanglong. If there is prolapse, we might choose Baihui. If there is confusion, we may need to act quickly in order to help this patient by using Rianzhong. There are also uses of the 8 meeting points, 5 transfer points, and so on which are too numerous to take note of. Because of this, we must rely on our clinical experience when selecting points. The above 3 methods related to how we pick individual points. 12. Combining points. Combining points is the use of more than 2 acupoints, which contribute to healing one condition. Frequently used point prescriptions include main meridian prescription, internal and external prescription, upper and lower prescription, front and back prescription, left and right paired point prescription, and so on. Paired points use the function of points and paired points together in order to improve the overall function. 1. Original channel paired point prescription. Every organ and viscera and meridian, when it's most ill, will express within one organ. At this time, one can select points on the meridian, which may be paired in order to benefit treatment. For instance, if the lung is ill and there is coughing, it's possible to use the mu point of the lung, zhongfu, at the same time use Chizhe and Taiyuan. External and internal paired points. This method relates to the organs and meridians, the channels yin and yang, and external and internal relationships. Whenever an organ or viscera is ill, one can select internal and external points to treat illness. For example, if the liver is ill, one may choose the foot terminal yin meridian, Taichung point, and pair it with the external foot lesser yang gallbladder channel, yang lingchuan point. 3. Same name as the channel pairing method. This method of using the same name points as the channel uses the concept of similar qi can connect in treating the hands and feet. For instance, if the teeth are sore, we can select the hand Yangming meridian and Hegu combined with the foot Yangming meridian Neiting points. For headache, we can mix the hand Taiyang meridian Hoshi point with the foot Taiyang meridian Kunlun point. Upper and lower point combinations. This method uses the area above and below the waist or the arm and leg to treat illness. The upper and lower pairing method has many applications in clinical practice. For instance, in stomach illnesses, we can use neiguan mixed with zusanli. If the teeth are sore, we can use hegu mixed with neiting. If there's anal prolapse, we can use zigong mixed with baihui, and so on. It is possible to mix the 8 meeting points, such as in the case of neiguan and gongsun, waiguan and linqi, hoxi and shenmai, liechui and zhaohai. This is also a reflection of the same technique. Front and back method. This method mainly treats the front, which refers to the chest and lower abdomen, and back, which refers to the back of the waist. Selecting back and front points is called the front and back point selection, and belly and back yin-yang point selection. This is used to help with illness in the organs. For instance, if the stomach is in pain, you can use the front points such as zhongwan and liangmen, and back points such as weishu and weicang. For asthma, you can use tianchuan and sanzhong in the front and feishu and dingchuan in the back. Left and right pairing. This method uses points on the left and right limbs. For instance, if the heart is ill, we can use the 2 sides of heart shu and neiguan. If the stomach is sore, we can use 2 sides of weishu and zusanli. And we can also use different points on the left and right. For instance, if the left side faces ill, we can use the left side jiache and dicong paired with the right side hegu. If there is left side headache, we can use the left side touwei and right side yanglingchuan. To sum up, in clinical treatment, we must master these basic methods of selecting acupoints in order to find out the treatment method with the highest likelihood of being effective. 4. Summary. Acupoint meaning. Acupoints are the outer expression of the organs, meridians, qi, and blood of the body, internal and external locations. 2. Acupoint development. There were 3 phases of the development of acupoints. That which is sore is an acupoint phase, settling names and locations phase, settling names, location, and channels phase of maturity. Types of acupoints. The 14 meridians, extraordinary points, and Asher points. These are the 3 types in total. Naming conventions of points. Following the name of the body part, following the name of the treatment, relating to the continents of heaven and earth, related to animal and plant characteristics, ancient terms related to culture and phenomena, mixed with Chinese medicine theory. Special features of treatment of acupoints. Proximal treatment, point, distal treatment, use, specialized treatment. Acupoint treatment principles. Acupoint treatment is based on specific meridians. Acupoint treatment is based on specific regions of the body. Special points. Special points include points on the 14 meridians under the knee and elbow, such as the 5 transfer point, yuan source point, luo points, shi cleft points, 8 vessel meeting points, and lower he points. On the chest and abdomen, the back and waist are the back shu and front mu points. On the 4 limbs and body, there are 8 meeting points which connect the entire body. There are 10 types of special points. 5 transfer points, which total 60, yuan source points, which number 12, and in fact typically have 6 which are frequently used, luo points, which number 15, shi cleft points, which number 16, back shu points, which number 12, front mu points, which number 12, 8 meeting points, which number 8, vessel meeting points, 8 vessel meeting points, which number 8, lower he points, which number 6, with 3 that are frequently used. In total, there are 149 special points, with 140 that are commonly used, including the exchange points. 8. Use in acupuncture and moxibustion. Stretch the meridians, support the body and drive away pathogens, and adjust yin and yang. 9. Principles of selecting points. Local point selection, distal point selection, following the illness point selection. 10. Method of pairing the points. On the original channel, internal and external, same name point selection, upper and lower point selection, front and back point selection, left and right point selection. Thank you for watching.